The wicker basket had not been on the gravel 10 seconds before. Now it was. Jun Pyohan walked the perimeter of his Hudson estate every night for 241 nights, because the woman he loved had walked out through that gate 8 months ago without a single goodbye. He was the heir to one of the largest Korean-American maritime fortunes on the East Coast, and the only nephew of a chairman whose serpent signet ring he had been raised to fear before he had been raised to fear anything else. Naomi Caldwell was black, beautiful, slender, an investigative photojournalist who had quietly been chasing a trafficking trail through container ships. His name was on every manifest she had been following. He had never let himself ask what those containers carried. At 3:12 in the morning, the security feed at his front gate cut to gray static for 38 seconds. When it came back, a wicker basket sat on the gravel inside the wall. Inside the basket, swaddled in a hand-knit cream blanket, was a 3-month-old black baby girl with almond eyes he had been looking at in his own mirror since he was 4 years old. Pinned inside the blanket was a sealed envelope, a slack USB drive, and a Polaroid of the woman he had not seen in 8 months. The note told him he had 2 minutes to decide which family he was going to belong to. The USB drive told him why. What he found on that drive changed everything. Before starting the story, comment down below where you are watching from and what time it is there. If stories of karma, love, and hidden truths move you, leave a like. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and click join to become a member and help our channel. The gravel made the same sound every night. Jun Pyo had stopped noticing it years ago, the way a man stops noticing his own breathing. Tonight he noticed it. 3 steps before the iron gate at the front of the drive, the gravel did the wrong thing under his foot. A single piece moved that should not have moved. Something had been there. He stopped. He listened. 3 in the morning at the Hudson estate sounded like nothing. The house behind him stood dark except for the kitchen window, where Mrs. Kim had left the small lamp on the counter the way she always did. The river behind the boathouse pushed itself against the dock and pulled back, pushed and pulled, the only thing alive for a mile. The motion lamps along the lawn cast warm, low circles into the grass, and the circles did not reach the gate. He waited a full minute. He counted to 60 in his head, the slow way his grandfather had taught him. Nothing. He started walking again. He had been making this walk every night for 241 nights. He knew the count. He kept it the way other men kept rosaries. The grass on either side of the drive had begun to remember him. The motion-sensitive lamps no longer triggered when he passed. The house had decided he was furniture. The dogs at the kennel on the far side of the boathouse did not bark anymore. They had learned the hour. He passed the boxwood hedge his mother had planted 20 years ago. He passed the small fountain his uncle had insisted on installing the spring after his father died. He passed the iron bench his grandfather had, imported from Seoul in 1974. None of the things on this property had been chosen by him. He had simply inherited them, one quiet trespass at a time, and now they belonged to him the way a body belongs to a man who is no longer sure he wants it. The wind shifted off the river. He smelled wet bark and the brackish edge that came in this far north before a freeze. He felt the slow burn of the cold inside his coat between the wool and his shoulder blades. The watch on his wrist read 3:04. He had not eaten since breakfast. He had not spoken aloud to another person since he had left the office at 6:13, Mrs. Kim had nodded to him from the kitchen when he came in, and he had nodded back. And that was the entire transaction of his evening. The way most of his evenings had been transacted for 8 months. He had stopped looking at his own evenings the way a man looks at his life. He had started looking at them the way a man looks at distance. 241 nights was a number. The number had not turned into grief yet. The number was still a number, and as long as it was still a number, he was still able to put on a suit and sign things at a table. The iron gate was 8 feet tall, set into a low brick wall that ran around the front face of the property. The cameras above it pointed in 3 directions. He had read their feeds for 241 mornings, and they had shown him the same thing each time. The same dark road bending away from the river, disappearing into the trees. He had stopped looking up at them after the first 100 nights. There was nothing in the trees to look at. He reached the gate. He set his right hand against it. The metal was cold and dry. 8 months ago, on a Tuesday in early March, a woman named Naomi Caldwell had walked out through this gate at 4 in the afternoon, in a worn olive jacket and her grandmother's copper pendant, and had not come back. She had left no note, she had left no message. She had left her toothbrush in the bathroom upstairs and 3 of her shirts in the hall closet, and she had left a half-finished cup of jasmine tea on the kitchen island that Mrs. Kim had not had the heart to throw away for 2 weeks. He had not told anyone she had left. He had not told anyone she had been there. The house had simply gone back to being his. He took his hand off the gate. He turned. He was about to start the long walk back to the kitchen. The gravel did the wrong thing again. He looked down. The gravel inside the gate, on his side, was disturbed in a way it should not have been. A short oval of stones pushed flat. Something heavy had been set down there. Something heavy had been set down there and lifted off again. He turned the small flashlight on his keys and pointed it at the ground. A footprint. Half a footprint. The edge of a boot wider than his own. The tread a coarse hex pattern. The boot had stepped once on the gravel inside his gate, and then the boot had not stepped again. He stood very still in the cold. The flashlight beam stayed steady on the half-print. The river. The dogs not barking. A truck on the highway a mile off. He thought. Whoever this was, they were inside my gate. He thought. Whoever this was, they came over the wall. He did not move for 10 minutes. When he moved, he did not walk to the gate. He walked the inside of the wall the long way around, the way he had not walked in months, brick by brick, his eyes on the lawn for any second print. The brick was clean. The lawn was clean. Whoever had come over once, and had gone back over once, and had left nothing else of themselves behind. He came back along the side of the house and into the security cabin. The cabin was empty after midnight. The nightman came on at 6. He had let him keep that schedule because he did not want a stranger sitting awake on his property at the hours he himself walked. He unlocked the cabin door. He sat down at the console. He pulled the feed for the front gate camera back to midnight. The footage played at 4 times speed. The drive, the gate, the road beyond the gate, the road, the drive, the gate, the road. At 3:12 a.m., the feed went gray. He paused it. He rewound 30 seconds. He let it play at real time. 3:11 and 40 seconds. The gate, the black road, wet asphalt under a sliver of moon. The faint shadow of the lamp inside the wall, throwing one warm line across the gravel. 3:12 and 4 seconds. The gate, the black road, the wet asphalt, the faint shadow. 3:12 and 5 seconds. Gray static. He sat in the cabin with his hand on the mouse, and he watched gray static for 38 seconds. At 3:12 and 43 seconds, the feed came back. The gate, the black road, the wet asphalt, the faint shadow of the lamp. Centered in the gravel inside his gate, where 10 seconds ago there had been nothing at all, sat a wicker bassinet. He looked at it for a long time, then he checked the other cameras. Side gate, continuous feed, no break, nothing crossed. Back of the property, continuous feed, no break, river only. Garage, continuous feed. Kennel, continuous feed. Front gate, only 38 seconds. Someone had known the system. Someone had known the system well enough to cut only what they needed to cut, and to put it back on again before the dogs would have noticed. He closed the laptop. He stood up. He walked back out across the lawn, the same lawn he had walked 1,000 times, and he did not feel the grass under his shoes. He reached the gate. He stopped 2 steps from the bassinet. It was made of pale wicker with a low handle and a folded cream blanket inside. There was a small white pillow under the blanket. The blanket was knit, hand-knit, with a tight stitch he recognized in a way he could not place. A thumb of memory that brushed something and pulled back. He crouched. He set the flashlight on the gravel beside him, beam upward against the wall, so his hands would be free. He drew the corner of the blanket down with one finger. Inside the blanket was a baby girl. He could tell from the soft pink onesie under the blanket and the small white knit cap on her head. She was asleep. Her eyelashes lay against her cheeks in 2 short crescents. Her mouth was slightly open. She was breathing. She was not white. Her skin was light brown, the color of milk and tea. A shade darker than her own breath made it look in the cold. Her hair was a soft cloud of dark curl peeking from under the cap. Her cheeks were round and full, and there was a small dimple in her chin. He was looking at, before he understood, he was looking at his own chin. He did not move. He looked at her face. The eyes were closed, but the bones of the face were not closed. The shape of the brow, the line of the jaw, the way the small chin came to a point, the angle at the outside of the eye where the lid folded into a soft single crease. A crease he had been looking at in the mirror since he was 4 years old. His mother had taken his face in her 2 hands once, when he was a boy, and told him that one day he would look at a child and see himself there, and that was when his life would begin. He had not believed her for 32 years. He believed her now. His hand was shaking. He pressed it against the gravel to make it stop. It did not stop. He reached again into the bassinet. Slowly you reach into a pool of still water. His fingertips brushed the edge of the blanket. There was a small zipper sewn into the inside hem, hidden under the stitching, a pocket that an ordinary person would never have found. He found it. He drew out a sealed white envelope, the size of a small nota card. He held it against his palm. He did not open it yet. He picked up the bassinet by its handle. He picked up his flashlight. He turned and walked, careful steps, back across the gravel toward the house. He did not go in through the front. He carried the bassinet around to the side door and let himself in through the mudroom, the way he used to come in with wet shoes as a boy. In the kitchen, Mrs. Kim's small lamp made a low yellow circle around the sink. The cold dinner she had left him hours ago sat under cling film on the counter. A small plate of seasoned tofu, half a roasted sweet potato cut in 2, a side of dressed greens. He had not touched it. He had not touched it the night before either. He set the bassinet on the long oak island. He stood over it with both hands flat on the wood. The baby had not woken. He opened the envelope. The paper was plain, unlined notebook stock, folded once. The handwriting was aslant he had not seen in 8 months. The handwriting was Naomi's. He had told himself 1,000 times what her handwriting would look like when he saw it next. He had been wrong every time he read, "If this baby reached you, I am either close or already gone." He stopped. He let the lines sit on the page. For a long moment he read on. "Her name is Sua. She is yours. She is 3 months and 4 days old. She was born on November 2nd. She is healthy. She likes the sound of running water, and she hates the cold. Do not let her get cold. I am not coming to your door, June Pio. I am not calling you. You will not be able to find me from this letter. That is on purpose. Please believe me when I tell you that I have not stopped loving you for 8 months. Believe me also when I tell you that loving you is not enough to keep her alive." He set the paper down on the counter and pressed both palms flat over it, the way you cover a wound to slow the bleeding. He looked across the kitchen at nothing. After a moment, he picked the paper back up. "Listen to me very carefully. Do not tell your family she exists. Do not tell Mrs. Kim yet. She will understand later. Do not tell Eugene. Do not tell anyone at the company. Do not put her on any document with your name. Do not take her to a hospital tonight unless she is dying. The people who know she exists are the people I have been hiding her from for 3 months. They live inside your house. The USB drive in this envelope is what I have been doing for 8 months. Watch it on a clean machine, watch all of it. Then decide what you are going to do. If you choose to keep her, I have already trusted you with the only thing in my life I have ever loved more than you. If you choose to give her up, do not tell me how. I will not survive it. N. Junpyo set the letter down on the counter. He took the wax paper pouch from the envelope and slid the small black USB drive out into his palm. The drive was warm from his pocket. He set it next to the letter. He took the Polaroid out and turned it over with one fingertip. The image was lit by overhead fluorescent, a small white room with a narrow bed and an IV pole in the corner. Naomi was sitting up against a stack of pillows, hospital gown loose at the shoulders, her hair pulled into a single braid, coiled at the nape of her neck. She looked thinner than he had ever seen her. Her cheekbones cut hollows into her face he had not known were there to cut. In her arms, swaddled, was the baby. Naomi was not looking at the camera. Naomi was looking down at her daughter, and her mouth was slightly open, and her eyes were so tired he could not look at them for very long. Across the bottom of the Polaroid in her hand, 1102. She came in 3 pushes. I told her your real name first. N. Junpyo set the Polaroid down on top of the letter. He pressed the heels of his hands into his eyes until he saw white. He did not cry. He did not allow himself to cry. He stood at the island for a long time with the heels of his hands pressed into his eyes and his elbows on the oak, and he breathed in and out through his nose until the breath came out steady. When he lifted his head, the kitchen looked the same. The cling film, the cold plate, the small lamp at the sink, the bassinet on the island, the note, the Polaroid, the USB drive. He looked at his daughter. She had opened her eyes. She was looking at him. She did not cry. She did not coo. She did not blink. She looked at him with an expression so awake and so quiet that he forgot to breathe. He picked her up. He picked her up the way he had picked up nothing in his entire life. Both hands under her, the blanket bunching, his arms wrong, his shoulders too high, his elbow at a corner she fit into anyway. He held her against his chest. Her head fit into the hollow under his jaw. He could feel her breath on his throat. She did not cry. He did not know what to do with his hands, so he kept them where they were. He stood at the kitchen island, and he did not move for 1 minute, 2. He could hear his own heartbeat under his sternum, in a way he had not heard it since he was a small boy hiding in the back of his mother's closet during a thunderstorm. He could hear his daughter's heart under his palm. Her heart was small and fast and steady, the way a small live thing beats when it has decided the place it has arrived at is the place. He pressed his cheek against the soft white knit cap on the top of her head. The cap smelled of something old and clean, not perfume, not soap. The way a sheet smells after it has been in a cedar chest. The cap smelled like a woman he had not held in 8 months. He did not move. He stood at the kitchen island in the small yellow circle of Mrs. Kim's lamp holding his 3-month-old daughter, and the kitchen around him went very still in the way a room goes still when something has just changed inside it, without the room knowing yet what has changed. He thought about the man who must have set the basket on the gravel. Whoever the boot in the print had belonged to had been told only to leave the basket and to leave. He had been told nothing more. He had been told nothing more, because if he had been told more, he would have known what he was carrying. And if he had known what he was carrying, the basket would not have made it to the gate. Junpyo did not know yet what it meant that it had made it. He understood with a clarity he had not understood anything else in his life, that whoever had organized the leaving of the basket had also organized the not knowing of the man who left it. He understood that organizing the not knowing of a man was something Naomi would not have been able to do alone. Somebody else was inside this with her. Somebody who could cut a camera feed and put it back. Somebody who could put a boot inside his gate and not leave a footprint anywhere else on the property. Somebody who knew the schedule of his nightman and the location of his security cabin and the door he used when he came in from the side garden. Somebody who knew his house. Earlier that day, in the Hudson conference room on the 22nd floor of the Han Maritime Building, his uncle Sang-hoon had sat across from him at a black walnut table and had said, in the slow, even voice he used when he was telling Junpyo something he was not asking, that the chairmanship would move up by Christmas, that Junpyo would sign every container manifest on the northern route by January 1st, that the family would be glad, that the engagement to Eugene Choi would be a banquet his late father would have been proud to host, that the family would be glad. He had said the family would be glad twice. The light had come through the conference window in 2 long, warm bars across the table and across his uncle's hands. His uncle had not touched his coffee. Junpyo had said, "Yes, uncle." He had said it because he had been saying it for 36 years. He had said it in the same voice he used to confirm fertilizer orders for the lawn. He had walked out of the conference room with the chairmanship in his future and his hands in his pockets. And he had not allowed himself to think anything at all. Because thinking anything at all about his uncle was a door he had been refusing to open for so long that he had forgotten the door was there. He stood now in his kitchen at 3:26 in the morning, holding his daughter, and he could feel the door. He could feel the hinge of it. Sua made a small sound against his throat, not a cry, a breath. The sort of sound a creature makes when it has decided the place it has arrived at is safe enough to sleep again. Junpyo closed his eyes. He thought, "I do not know how to feed her," he thought. "I do not know how to hold her properly," he thought. "I do not know how to put her down," he thought. "I have known her for 9 minutes, and I will never give her back." He opened his eyes. He looked at the USB drive on the counter. Outside the kitchen window, somewhere down the long curve of the drive, a car door closed. Junpyo lifted his face from the top of Sua's head and looked at the window. He had not heard a car come up the drive. Whoever it was had parked at the gate and walked. He held his daughter tighter. He stood very still. A second car door closed. Then a third. Footsteps on the gravel. 2 men, by the rhythm of them, walking unhurried. He looked at the bassinet on the island. He looked at the note, the Polaroid, the drive. He looked at the wall clock above the door. 3:28. Mrs. Kim's voice from the doorway behind him, low and even. "Sir!" He did not turn around. She had moved without making a sound, the way she had moved through this house since before he was born. She stood now just inside the kitchen, one hand on the doorframe, her wire-frame glasses catching the lamp at the sink. Her dark cardigan was pulled close at her throat. Her hair was down for the night, gathered loosely at one shoulder in a silver rope. She had seen the bassinet. She did not look surprised. "Sir," she said again, "your uncle is at the kitchen door." Junpyo turned to her. He did not need to say anything. He did not need to ask her to keep his daughter while he opened the door. He did not need to tell her not to speak. She held her arms out, the arms of a woman who had held him when he was Sua's age, and who had not held an infant since. He gave Sua to her, Mrs. Kim received the baby against her chest, the way she received fine porcelain. Both hands slow, the muscle memory of a half-century returning to her shoulders. She turned, without a word, and walked out of the kitchen through the inner door, toward the staff hallway at the back of the house, the bassinet tucked under her free elbow. The note, the Polaroid, the USB drive. Junpyo slid them off the counter and into the inside pocket of his cardigan. He brushed the cling film off the cold plate, lifted it, set it on the island as if he had just sat down to eat. He stood at the island. He took a slow breath. He waited for the knock at the kitchen door. The knock came, 3 even taps, then a pause, then 1 tap. The way his uncle had knocked on every door in this house for 40 years. Junpyo walked to the kitchen door. He opened it. His uncle Sang-hoon stood under the porch light in a long charcoal overcoat, over a dark navy 3-piece suit, no tie. The gold signet ring with the Han clan serpent catching the light on his left pinky. His salt and pepper hair was combed straight back. The deep vertical scar between his eyebrows looked, in this light, like something somebody had drawn there with a fingernail. Behind him on the gravel stood 2 men Junpyo had never seen before. "Sang-hoon," Junpyo said. His uncle did not smile. His uncle said, in the slow, even voice he used for nothing at all, "Junpyo, tell me what you found at the gate tonight." Junpyo did not flinch. He had been raised by this voice. He had learned, before he had learned to read, that the only safe answer to this voice was the answer that bored it. "The cameras went out for 40 seconds, Junpyo said. "I reset the system from the cabin. Probably a power surge from the substation on Bear Mountain Road. I'll have the technician out tomorrow." His uncle did not move. "You were at the gate." "I walked the perimeter," Junpyo said. "I do that every night." His uncle held his eyes for 1 slow breath. What was at the gate? Nothing. Junpyo did not blink. A deer had been at the wall, that's all. "I followed the prints." His uncle's mouth did the thing it did when he was deciding whether a lie was worth correcting in the moment or worth correcting later. The 2 men on the gravel behind him stayed where they were. Junpyo did not look at them. He did not look at their hands. He did not look at the shapes inside their dark jackets. "It is 3:30 in the morning," his uncle said. "You should be in bed." "You are awake too, uncle." His uncle's eyes did not leave him. The porch light threw a flat circle across the kitchen step. Inside that circle, the gold signet ring on his uncle's left pinky caught and held. The small engraved serpent on it bright for 1 second and gone again as the hand moved an inch. "I am awake because somebody alerted me that the system at this house went gray at 3:12. His uncle did not raise the volume of his voice by a single degree. "Somebody who has been instructed to alert me when this house breathes the wrong way." There it was. Quietly, cleanly said. The house had a watcher Junpyo had not put there. "You are kind to look in on me," Junpyo said. He let his face go empty. He had learned to do that as a boy in front of this same man. It still worked. His uncle stood under the porch light a long time, looking at him. The deep vertical scar between his eyebrows did the small thing it did when he was unsatisfied. Behind him, on the gravel, one of the 2 men shifted his weight from the right foot to the left. "You will go to bed, Junpyo," his uncle finally said. "Yes, uncle. You will not walk the perimeter again tonight." "No, uncle." His uncle looked past him into the kitchen. The bassinet was gone from the island. The note was gone. The cold plate was on the island with a napkin half folded beside it. The lamp at the sink threw a small yellow circle around the porcelain. His uncle did not step inside. He turned. He walked back across the porch, down the 3 flagstone steps onto the gravel. The 2 men fell in behind him. They walked in 3 close shapes back down the curve of the drive, the way they had come, and they did not look back. Junpyo closed the kitchen door. He turned the deadbolt. He turned it twice, even though it could only turn once. He stood at the door, with his forehead pressed against the wood, and he did not breathe for a full 10 seconds. When he breathed, it was through his teeth. He turned. He walked through the kitchen, through the back hall to the staff corridor. Mrs. Kim was waiting in the 3rd doorway on the left. The door behind her was open. The room had been a sewing room when his grandmother was alive. Mrs. Kim had taken it for herself when she had started to need an afternoon nap 10 years ago. It had a small bed, a soft armchair, a low lamp with a yellow shade, a tea kettle on a hot plate. The bassinet sat now on the rug beside the armchair. Mrs. Kim held Sua against her shoulder. The baby had fallen asleep again, mouth open against the soft gray wool of her cardigan. Mrs. Kim did not look surprised by anything. "Sir," she said. He stood in the doorway. He did not know where to put his hands. "Mrs. Kim, sir." She lifted one finger from the small of Sua's back and pressed it lightly to her own lips. Then she lowered it. "Close the door." He closed the door. She walked, slow, careful with the sleeping child, and lowered herself into the armchair. She saw in the curve of her arm. "Sit down," she said. He sat down on the edge of the small bed across from her. For a long moment she did not speak. She was looking down at the baby. Then she said, very quietly, "When was she born?" "Naomi's letter says November 2nd. She kept looking down at the baby. "She has your father's chin," she said after a moment, "and your mother's mouth. The forehead is hers." Junpyo's eyes filled. He turned his head to the side so she would not see. She did not look up. She gave him the courtesy of pretending not to notice. After a moment she said, "Naomi did not tell me about her. No, I would have helped her. I know you would have. She did not trust the house. No, she was right not to." Junpyo's head came back around. Mrs. Kim was still looking at the baby. Her face had not changed. But she said the next thing in a different register, the way you say a thing you have been carrying for years. "There are things I have not told you, sir. Things I have known about this house for a long time. Things I told myself were not mine to say." He waited. "I am still not going to tell you those things tonight," she said. "Tonight you need to learn how to make a bottle and how to change a diaper and how to put a baby down without waking her. That is all you are doing tonight. Tomorrow you will look at what is on the drive. After that, you and I will speak." "Mrs. Kim." "After that," she said, "you and I will speak." She lifted her head. Her dark eyes behind the wireframe glasses were calm and dry. "Do you understand me, sir?" "Yes, Mrs. Kim, good." She handed him his daughter. He had not held a baby a single time in his adult life. He took her wrong the first time. He took her wrong the second time. The third time, Mrs. Kim slid her own hand under his elbow and corrected the angle without saying anything, and the baby settled into him as if she had been waiting for him to get the geometry right. Mrs. Kim got up. She went to the bassinet and took out a small flat tin Junpyo had not noticed. Inside the tin was a sealed pouch of powdered formula, a sterile glass bottle, a soft cloth, and 3 diapers folded small and tight. "Naomi sent these with her," Mrs. Kim said. "She thought of you. Even now she thought of you." She showed him how to mix the formula. She showed him how to check the temperature on the inside of his wrist. She showed him how to hold the bottle so the air did not collect at the nipple. He did each of these things 3 times under her eye before she let him do them alone. When Sua finally took the bottle, she took it with both small fists wrapped around his thumb. He watched her drink. He did not move. He did not speak. Mrs. Kim watched him watching the baby. She did not say anything. After a while, she got up, made herself a small cup of barley tea on the hot plate, and sat back down in the armchair with the cup in her 2 hands. Outside the small window above the bed, the sky had begun to gray. When the bottle was empty, Mrs. Kim took it from him without a word. She lifted Sua onto Junpyo's shoulder, placed his hand at the small of her back, and patted twice to show him the rhythm. He patted. Sua burped against his collarbone. Then she sighed, the soft sigh of an animal that had decided again that this place was safe enough, and her body went heavy against him. "You will not put her down tonight," Mrs. Kim said. "No," he said. "Good." She got up. She picked up the bassinet. She walked across the small room and set the bassinet at the foot of the bed. Lie down on your side, she said. Keep her against your chest. Do not roll. If she fusses, do not stand up. Speak to her. She will know your voice. She does not know my voice. She knows your voice. Mrs. Kim did not look at him. Her mother told her your voice for 9 months. She left the room. She closed the door behind her so softly he did not hear the latch. Junpyo lay down on his side, on the small bed in the small room he had never slept in, with his 3-month-old daughter held against his chest, and he did not sleep. He stared at the back of her neck. He watched her ear. He watched her hand close on the loose front of his t-shirt and refused to let go. Outside the small window, dawn came in flat gray bands. When the alarm on his phone buzzed at 6:30, he had been awake for 4 hours and had not moved a single muscle. He carried Soo-ah back to Mrs. Kim and let her take her without speaking. He went upstairs. He showered in cold water. He put on a dark suit. He went to the office. The driver did not speak to him on the ride. The driver had not spoken to him on a ride in 2 years. The driver was one of his uncle's men. Junpyo had always known this. He had never wanted to know it. Today, he sat in the back seat with his hands flat on his knees, and he counted the lampposts on the parkway between the gate and the Henry Hudson, and he did not look at the back of the driver's head once. The Han Maritime Building was a 40-story column of dark glass on West 47th. Between the river and 11th Avenue, the lobby was black marble with a small bronze sign that read Han in 2 characters, no English. The security desk knew his face, the elevator knew his floor. The corner office on the 22nd was waiting for him with the lights already on and a tray of green tea already brought up by the floor staff. He sat at his desk. He drank the tea. He answered 11 emails. He returned 3 phone calls. He approved a brochure for the engagement banquet. He signed off on the floral order for his own wedding. He did not allow any of it to mean anything to him at all. At 11 a.m., his uncle's assistant opened his door without knocking and said the conference room on 23 was ready for the manifests. He stood up. He walked to the elevator. He went up 1 floor. He sat down at the long walnut table, where his uncle was already seated at the head, his hands folded on a folder, a single cup of black coffee in front of him. Good morning, Junpyo. Good morning, Uncle. Are we well? We are well, Uncle. Good. His uncle opened the folder. The stack of paper inside was 3/4 of an inch tall. The top sheet was a customs declaration for container HMG 5119302N. Busan to Newark. Declared cargo. Machined parts automotive. Weight 22,900 kilograms. Routing through the Hudson terminal. Expected arrival 14 days from today. Junpyo's hand stayed on his knee under the table. He had not seen container HMG 5119302N on the USB. He had not had time to read the manifest summary the night before. The container was new. The container was coming. His uncle slid the page across. Junpyo picked up the pen. He read the page, slowly. 2 columns of small figures, 11 signatures already, on the 3rd page, from his uncle's people in Busan, 2 signatures from the receiving council in Newark, 1 space at the bottom for him. He signed the space at the bottom. His uncle slid the next page across. He signed. His uncle slid the next page across. He signed. He signed for 3 hours. The stack on his uncle's side of the table thinned. The stack on the floor by his right elbow grew. His uncle did not speak between pages. The only sound in the room was the small, wet shape of a coffee cup being lifted and set back down. The only motion was the slow back and forth of a single sheet across a long polished table. He signed his name 58 times. When the stack on his uncle's side was empty, his uncle closed the folder. His uncle stood up. He came around the table. He set his hand on Junpyo's shoulder. Good, his uncle said. Very good. The hand stayed on the shoulder 1 beat longer than it needed to. Junpyo did not look up. Thank you, Uncle. His uncle removed his hand. His uncle left the conference room. Junpyo sat at the table for 1 minute after the door closed. He set the pen down. He set it down with the same care he would have set down a small live thing. Then he picked up the stack of pages from the floor. 58 customs declarations, 41 bills of lading, 12 secondary clearances, and he carried them to his uncle's assistant for filing. He went back to his own office. He shut the door. He sat in the leather chair. He put his elbows on his knees and his face in his hands. He had just signed 58 paper trails. His uncle could now lay at his feet if anything went wrong. He had just become, in writing, his uncle's chairman. He stood up. He left the office. He went home. When he came home at 6 in the evening, Mrs. Kim had moved Sua's bassinet from the sewing room to a closet in his own bedroom, a small walk-in lined with cedar where his mother used to keep her winter coats. She had laid a soft blanket on the closet floor and had set up a quiet space lamp on a low stool. The closet had no window. The closet had only one door, and the door had a key. He fed Sua at 7. He changed her at 8. He put her down in the bassinet at 9. He stood in the closet doorway watching her until 10. Then he closed the closet door behind him, locked it, sat down at his desk in the bedroom, and took the small black USB drive out of the inside pocket of his cardigan. He had a laptop he kept for personal use, a clean machine with no company software on it, no email connected, no network at all. He had bought it 11 months ago on a quiet evening, for reasons he had not been able to name. He understood now what the reasons had been. He plugged in the drive. The drive had one folder. The folder was named NC. Inside the folder were 243 files. He clicked the first one. It was a PDF, a scanned shipping manifest with the Han Maritime letterhead at the top. The manifest was dated 18 months ago. The route was Busan to Newark, container number HMG 4778932N. The declared cargo was machined parts, automotive, weight 24,400 kilograms. In the right margin of the PDF, in red ink in Naomi's handwriting, was a circled note, no machined parts. See video file 4778932.mp44. He found the video file. He clicked it. The footage was telephoto, grainy with low light. The Hudson Container Terminal at night. Container HMG 4778932N had just been opened on the dock. 2 men in dark coats stood at the open mouth of the container. The first man stepped inside and disappeared for a moment. When he came back out, he was leading 3 women by the wrists. The women were small. The women were thin. The women were not dressed for the cold. One of the men in dark coats turned his face toward the camera, briefly, scanning the dock. The face was clearly visible for less than 2 seconds. Junpyo paused the video. He sat looking at the face. The face was Connor McAllister. He had sat across a table from Connor McAllister 6 weeks ago in the dining room of his uncle's club. While Connor McAllister had smiled too widely at a joke about salmon fishing, he had shaken Connor McAllister's hand. The hand had been warm. He started the video again. The 2 men loaded the 3 women into a white van parked at the loading bay. The van had no markings. The van pulled out. The video ended. Junpyo closed the video. He clicked the next file, a second scanned manifest. Busan to Newark 4 months later. Container HMG 4881107N. Automotive parts, weight 23,800 kilograms. In Naomi's hand in red, no parts. 5 women. See 4881107.mp4. He did not open the video. He clicked the next file. A third manifest. 5 women. See video. A fourth. 7 women. A fifth. 2 women. 1 child. He stopped clicking. He scrolled through the file list. One file cut him. It was named 4881 to Jun 107 faces.jpg. He clicked it. A composite of 5 small photographs taken from the video he had refused to open. Each photograph was a still frame zoomed in on a face. Naomi had labeled each one in pencil along the bottom edge. First name, country of origin. Last known date of contact with the family who had filed the missing person report. Mira, Moldova, 18 months ago. Lena, Belarus, 15 months ago. Adriana, Romania, 14 months ago. The dates of last contact lined up almost exactly with the date the container had docked. The faces were young. The faces were thin. The faces were not smiling. One of them, the second from the left, had pressed both hands against the door of the container and was looking up. Looking at her own reflection in something, maybe the inside of the container door, maybe nothing at all. And the look on her face was a look Junpyo had been trained as a small boy never to see on a stranger and never to ask about. He looked at her for a long time. He moved his eyes one face to the right. He moved his eyes one face to the right. He moved his eyes one face to the right. He moved his eyes one face to the right. He had not realized until he scrolled the photograph closed and the screen went dark that he had been holding his breath. 243 files. 11 of them were summary spreadsheets. Most of the rest were manifests paired with videos. The dates ranged across 4 years. The container numbers were familiar in a way he had not allowed himself to notice. He had signed at least 60 of them on paper himself, in the last 14 months alone, as part of what his uncle had been calling familiarizing yourself with the northern route. He opened the summary spreadsheet at the top of the folder. 4 columns, container number, date docked, number of human beings inside, final disposition. The disposition column had 3 entries: sold, lost, killed. He scrolled down the killed column. 22 entries, 22 human beings. 22 names typed in small letters next to the container numbers. In Naomi's handwriting, transferred to type, Adriana, Lena, Mira. Junpyo could not look at the rest. He scrolled back up. The last file in the folder was named 4jonpyo.txt. He opened it. It was a single paragraph. Junpyo, I did not know your family was doing this when I met you. I did not know until 8 weeks before I left. I followed the contract numbers from a story I was running on the Newark port. The numbers kept ending at Han Maritime. The man I was looking for was your uncle. The man I love is not. I had to choose between telling you and finishing the evidence so you would never be alone again on the other side of this. I am sorry I chose the way I did. If you are reading this, you are looking at the file by yourself, which means you are choosing. I love you. N. Junpyo closed the file. He sat at the desk with his hands flat on either side of the laptop. He looked at the laptop screen for 1 minute, 2, 3. Then he stood up. He walked to the bathroom that opened off the bedroom. He put both hands on the sink. He bent over the sink. He vomited until there was nothing left in him to vomit, and then he kept dry retching for another half a minute until his throat tasted like iron. He turned on the cold water. He rinsed his mouth. He rinsed his face. He stood at the sink and looked at himself in the mirror. The man in the mirror was 36 years old. The man in the mirror had a coiled black serpent inked across the right side of his neck. The Han clan seal given to him at 18 by his grandfather. The man in the mirror was wearing a charcoal gray merino turtleneck over black tailored wool trousers. The man in the mirror was wealthy. The man in the mirror had not eaten in 2 days. The man in the mirror had a daughter sleeping in a closet 10 feet away. The man in the mirror was the heir to a family that had killed 22 women. He stood at the mirror and he looked at himself for a long time. When he turned away from the mirror, the corner of his eye caught movement. The closet door was still locked. The sound he had heard was Sua on the other side of the closet door, beginning to cry. He crossed the bedroom. He unlocked the closet. He went in. He shut the door behind him. She was wide awake in the bassinet, her small face screwed up red and damp, her 2 small fists waving at the lamp on the stool. He lifted her out. He held her against his chest. I am here, he said in a voice that did not sound like his own. I am here. I am here. She did not stop crying. He sat down on the floor of the closet with his back against the cedar wall, and he held her against his chest, and he closed his eyes. He did not know yet what he was going to do. He knew, for the first time in 36 years, what he was not going to do. He was not going to sign another manifest. 3 days passed. He did not stop signing them. He had to. He had read his uncle's face across the kitchen door at 3:30 in the morning, and he had understood that the smallest pause would be the cause of the next package on his gravel. The next package would not be wicker. The next package would not be wrapped in a knit blanket. He kept signing. He had to learn in 72 hours how to be 2 men at once. The first man, the morning man, the man his uncle saw, Vice Chairman Han in a charcoal suit, 4 hours of sleep, perfect signatures. The second man, the night man, the man only Mrs. Kim saw, a 36-year-old father who did not know which way to face a diaper, who burned the first 3 bottles of formula by leaving the kettle on too long, who fell asleep in the closet with his back against cedar and woke when Sua's small hand found his ear. On Tuesday afternoon, Eugene Choi came to the house. She had not called. She did not call. She came because the banquet was 8 days out, and the menu needed to be confirmed, and because her father was beginning to find Jun Pyo's silence on the wine list disrespectful. He met her in the library on the ground floor. Mrs. Kim brought them tea on a black lacquer tray. Mrs. Kim set the tray down, glanced at Jun Pyo once from the side, and left. Eugene sat in the wing-back chair across from him in her cream wool coat, the coat unbuttoned, a black silk blouse and dark trousers underneath, her single platinum bracelet on the right wrist, her long black hair in one braid down her back. She did not touch her tea. "You look terrible," she said. "Thank you. I mean it. I know you mean it." She watched him for a long moment. He was sitting in the leather club chair opposite hers, his elbows on his knees, his hands clasped loosely between them. He had been waking every 2.5 hours for 2 nights. He had not shaved. He had not eaten. He could feel her counting these things off behind her face. "Are you sleeping?" she asked. "No. Are you ill?" "No." "Is it your uncle?" He looked up. He did not say anything. She held his eyes for 1 breath, 2, 3. Then she said, very quietly, "I have known you since you were 19, Jun Pyo. You have looked at me politely for 14 years. You are looking at me right now. I want you to think about that." He did not answer. She picked up her tea. She drank it in 3 small sips. She put the cup down. She stood up. "I will tell my father the wine list is fine," she said. "I will tell him you are working very hard." "Thank you." She went to the library door. She paused. She did not turn around. "Jun Pyo. Yes, if you ever need to leave the country at 4 hours' notice, the plane is at my hangar in Westchester. The pilot's name is Kowalski. You don't have to tell me why." He stood up. "Eugene, I am not asking," she said. "I am telling. I have been telling you for 2 years in smaller and smaller voices. Tonight I am telling you out loud. Goodbye, Jun Pyo." She paused with her hand on the doorknob. She did not turn back. "Your fiancé came to see you about a wine list this afternoon," she said. "Your fiancé saw what she came to see. Your fiancé will tell her father you are tired. Your fiancé will go home, and she will sit on the small couch in her sitting room with a cup of tea she will not drink, and she will not be thinking about a wine list." She turned the knob. "Jun Pyo, I have done what I came to do." She left. He stood in the library with his hand on the back of the chair for a long time after the front door closed. He did not understand yet what she had just said. He understood that someone in the world he had been pretending to live in had said it. He understood it was the first thing in 3 days that did not feel like gray static. That night he wrote nothing down. He set the laptop in the back of the closet under a folded sweater. He fed Sua. He changed Sua. He held Sua until she fell asleep. He set her in the bassinet. He locked the closet. He went to bed in his own room and stared at the ceiling and listened to the river behind the house. On Wednesday morning, his uncle's car was waiting at his gate. When the car came for him at 7, he got into the back seat. His uncle was already in the back seat. "Good morning, Junpyo." "Good morning, Uncle. We will ride together this morning." "Of course." The car pulled away from the gate. The driver did not look in the mirror. The car was a long black sedan with privacy Aussie glass, the kind of car his father had used until the year he died. His uncle sat for a full minute without speaking. The mile of road between the gate and the highway went past the window in slow gray-green ribbons. "Junpyo," his uncle said. "Yes, Uncle. You have been distracted. I am sorry, Uncle. I have not slept well. I have noticed. It will pass. It will pass," his uncle agreed. "Things pass." A small silence. "Eugene came to see you yesterday for the banquet. The wine list. What did you talk about?" "The wine list." His uncle did not look at him. His uncle was looking out his own window at the road. "Junpyo," he said, "there is a question I have been wanting to ask you for some time. I have waited. I will not wait any longer. Are you ready to be my chairman?" "Yes, Uncle. You answer too fast." Junpyo did not say anything. His uncle turned then, slowly, and looked at him. "You will sign the December manifests on Friday," his uncle said. 58 containers on the northern route, 41 bills of lading, 12 customs declarations. I will sit beside you. You will sign every one without reading them, because that is how a chairman signs. We will go to lunch afterwards. You will marry Eugene Choi on the 28th. We will spend the new year in Seoul, the 4 of us. Your aunt is looking forward to it." "Yes, Uncle." "Junpyo." "Yes, if you ever look at me again the way you looked at me at the kitchen door on Saturday night, I will assume you are no longer ready." Junpyo looked back at him. He did not blink. He did not flinch. He held the look the way he had held everything inside himself for 3 days. "Yes, Uncle," he said. His uncle did not smile. He did not need to. His uncle settled back against the seat. The privacy glass turned the parkway into a slow green smear. The sound of the road came in through the floor of the sedan and went up through the soles of Junpyo's shoes and rested under his kneecaps. "You used to be a quieter boy than this," his uncle said. "Yes, Uncle. Your mother used to say you were the quietest of all the cousins. She used to say that worried her." "Yes, Uncle. She used to say a boy who is too quiet has more thoughts than he should have. Do you remember her saying that?" "I remember, Uncle. Your mother loved you very much." "I know, Uncle. I loved her too. I want you to know that. There were many things I did not say to your mother when she was alive that I have said to her every Sunday morning for 19 years at my altar in Seoul. There are many things I have said to your father at the same altar. The 2 of them are not unhappy with me, Junpyo. The 2 of them are not unhappy with the road we have all walked. I want you to know that." Junpyo did not answer. His uncle was quiet for a stretch of road. Then his uncle said, "There is a young woman who used to come to this house, Junpyo, who I want you to think about for a moment." The blood in Junpyo's hands went cold. "I do not mean it unkindly," his uncle said. "I have not said her name in 8 months. I am not going to say it now. I want you to think about her. I want you to think about the way she used to set her camera down on the kitchen island at 6 in the evening. She used to set it there too hard. The bag would clatter against the wood. Your mother would never have set anything on a kitchen island the way that young woman did. Do you remember?" "I remember. That was the kind of woman she was. She was a kind of woman who set a camera down too hard on a kitchen island, Junpyo. Your mother set a camera down on a kitchen island once in 52 years, and it did not make a sound, because that was the kind of woman she was. Some women are one kind. Some women are another kind. There is no kindness or unkindness in saying so. A house has a kind of woman who belongs in it, and a house has a kind of woman who does not. Yujin Choi is the kind of woman who sets a camera down on a kitchen island the way your mother did. I want you to think about that. Junpyo did not answer. His uncle looked at him with a long, even face. I want you to think about it, Junpyo, because I would like to never have to say to you again that some women do not belong in some houses. Do you understand? Yes, uncle. The car ate the road in long, quiet bites all the way down to the office. Junpyo's hands were flat on his knees the entire ride, and he did not allow them to move. By 6 on Thursday morning, he had not slept at all. The closet light came on at 5:15 when Sua began to fuss. He had been on the floor of the closet beside her bassinet since 2. He picked her up. He brought her into the kitchen with the lamp at the sink, throwing its low yellow circle. He set her in the small portable seat. Mrs. Kim had moved down from the sewing room. He made formula. Mrs. Kim was already at the stove. She was making him rice porridge. She had not stopped making him rice porridge for 3 days. He had not eaten any of it. She looked at him as he tested the formula on the inside of his wrist. Sir, Mrs. Kim. You will eat this morning. Mrs. Kim, I do not. You will eat this morning. You will eat all of it. If you cannot do this for yourself, you will do it for her. He sat down at the small kitchen table. He fed Sua her bottle while Mrs. Kim ladled the porridge into a low bowl in front of him. He ate it with his free hand, slowly, 1 spoonful and then another, while his daughter drank her bottle in his other arm. Halfway through the bowl, Mrs. Kim turned on the small radio she kept on the counter. The radio was tuned to a low public station out of the city. She kept it at a quiet volume for weather and traffic, and for the morning music. He had heard this radio every morning of his life. The 7 o'clock news came on. He was not listening at first. He was listening to Sua's small breath against his collarbone. He was listening to the spoon move in his bowl. He was listening to Mrs. Kim's slippers on the tile. The third story in the broadcast caught him. The body of an unidentified woman was found late yesterday in a coastal motel outside Stonington, Connecticut. State police say the woman, believed to be in her late 20s or early 30s and of African American descent, was discovered by motel staff in a ground floor room she had checked into 9 days ago under a false name. Police are asking for any information from the public. Authorities released a single image from the room. A worn olive field jacket and a beaded copper pendant on a leather cord recovered from the body, in the hope that someone may recognize the items, anyone with information. The spoon was in his bowl. His hand did not move. He looked at the radio. He did not move his head. He did not move his eyes. He did not move, Mrs. Kim turned very slowly from the stove. She set the wooden spoon down on the counter. She walked across the kitchen. She picked the radio up off the counter. She turned the dial. She turned off the radio. She set the radio back down. She came to the table. She took Sua out of his arm. Sua did not cry. Sua went to her quietly. Mrs. Kim stood beside the table holding the baby. She put her free hand on the back of Junpyo's neck. She let it rest there. The hand was small and warm and knotted at the knuckles, and it had patted his back when he was 3 years old and had cried at a thunderstorm. Sir, he could not answer. Sir, listen to me. You do not know yet. You do not know what you heard. He could not answer. They will say a name. You will hear the name. Until then, you do not know. He could not answer. He sat at the kitchen table with his uncle's gold signet ring of a serpent burned into the back of his skull, with the soft body of his 3-month-old daughter being held by a 71-year-old Korean woman, 6 feet from him, with rice porridge cooling in a bowl in front of him, and with the worn olive field jacket and the beaded copper pendant on a leather cord laid across the floor of a Connecticut motel between his ribs. The 8 months on the perimeter walk had not been long enough to teach him how to hear this. The 8 months in this house had not been long enough to teach him how to keep his face from breaking. He felt it crack at the corner of his mouth first, then at the side of his right eye, then at the small notch above the bridge of his nose where, when he was a small boy and his mother had scolded him, he had felt every single one of his mother's words land. He did not lift his hand to his face. He did not cover anything. Mrs. Kim's hand stayed on the back of his neck. After a long time, he stood up. He stood up so slowly that the chair did not scrape. He stood up so slowly that Mrs. Kim's hand slid off his neck without losing its place. He stood up so slowly that Sua did not turn her head. He walked out of the kitchen. He walked down the back hall. He walked through the back stairwell. He walked up the back stairs to his bedroom. He went into the bathroom. He closed the door. He sat down on the tile floor with his back against the bathtub. He pressed both fists against his mouth. He did not make a single sound. He sat there for 40 minutes. When he came out of the bathroom, he had to walk past the closet to get to the bed. He stopped at the closet door. He looked at the lock. He set his hand on the lock. He did not open it. He went down the stairs and out into the kitchen and asked Mrs. Kim if his uncle had called. His uncle's car arrived at the gate 90 minutes later. The car came up the drive. At 30 miles an hour, the gravel kicked up under the tires. 2 black SUVs followed it. The lead SUV stopped at the gate. The trailing SUV came up the drive behind his uncle's car and parked broadside across the gravel. 4 men got out of it. His uncle did not knock on the kitchen door this time. His uncle came through the front door. Mrs. Kim met him in the foyer with her head bowed and her hands at her sides. She did not look up. She did not say anything. She let him pass. His uncle came into the front sitting room where Junpyo had been waiting for 35 minutes. Junpyo was standing at the window, looking down at the lawn. His uncle did not greet him. His uncle walked across the sitting room to the small carved walnut sideboard and poured himself a finger of soju into a small glass. He did not pour one for Junpyo. "You have heard," his uncle said. "I heard the news on the radio. It is not confirmed yet. No, it may not be her. No." His uncle drank the soju in one slow pull. He set the glass down. "You are not going to fall apart on me, Junpyo. Tell me you are not going to fall apart on me." "No, uncle. You will go to the office today. You will sit at the table. You will sign what I put in front of you. You will go to the banquet on the 28th, and you will marry Eugene, and you will become the chairman in January. That is what you will do. We will deal with this other thing privately. Are we clear?" "Yes, uncle." His uncle looked at him. His uncle looked at him a long time. "Junpyo." "Yes, uncle." His uncle turned from the sideboard. "I will say something to you that I have not said to you since your father died," his uncle said. "I will say it once. I would like you to listen. The reason I have been the chairman of Han Maritime for 11 years instead of you is because your father, who I loved, would not have been able to be a chairman of anything I have ever needed to be a chairman of. He was a kind man. Your mother was a kind woman. You are their son. You have spent 36 years being their son. There is a time in the life of a man when being his parent's son becomes a wall around the rest of him. You have lived inside that wall. I have walked the rest of the property for you. I have not asked for thanks. I have asked only that you stand at the inside of the wall when the inside of the wall needed standing at. That is what I am asking you to do now." He paused. "Do you understand who you are?" "Yes, uncle. Say it." "I am Han Junpyo, the only son of Han Shik, the grandson of Han Minjung, and the heir of Han Maritime, and your nephew." His uncle held his eyes for one long beat. "That is correct," he said. "Do not lose track of any one of those facts. Each of those facts is the reason you are still standing here." His uncle picked his glass back up. He walked it back to the sideboard. He set it down on a small silver coaster, carefully. "My driver will wait for you on the gravel," he said. "We leave in 15 minutes. Comb your hair." He walked out of the sitting room. Junpyo stood at the window. Outside on the gravel, the 4 men from the second SUV were standing in a loose square. 2 of them were facing the house. 2 were facing the gate. They were not waiting for anything in particular. They were the 4 corners of a perimeter, and the perimeter was around him. He understood, looking at the 4 men, that the house was no longer his. He had understood it at the kitchen door on Saturday at 3:30. He had pretended not to. He understood it now in a way he could not pretend not to. He turned from the window. He walked out of the sitting room. He walked down the hallway. He climbed the stairs. He went into his bedroom. He shut the door. He locked the door. He unlocked the closet. He sat down on the floor of the closet, with his back against the cedar wall. He lifted Sua out of the bassinet. She woke. She fussed. He held her against his shoulder. He patted her back twice. She began to cry. It was the first time she had cried in his arms. It was a small cry, more confused than upset. The cry of a creature who had been promised quiet and did not understand why the quiet had stopped. He pressed his lips against the top of her head. His hands were shaking. He could not stop them. He had not been able to stop them since 5 in the morning. He could feel them now against the small of her back, 2 unsteady drums, transmitting the unsteadiness into the soft pink onesie, into her skin, into her bloodstream. He held her tighter. The shaking did not stop. She cried harder. "I am here," he said. His voice did not sound like his. "I am here. I am here. I am here." He kept saying it. He kept saying it. He did not know if he was saying it to her or to the woman whose name had not been spoken on the radio. Outside the bedroom door, down the staircase, across the foyer, on the gravel, his uncle's car waited, and the 4 men stood in their loose square, and the morning sky over the river was the color of old steel. Junpyo sat on the floor of the closet with his shaking 3-month-old daughter shaking in his shaking arms. He had nothing left. He had her, and he did not know yet how to keep her. 2 days passed. He went to the office. He sat at his uncle's table. He signed every page his uncle pushed across the table without reading any of them. He did not allow himself to grieve in any room with a window. He did not allow himself to look at his own face in any mirror. He did not allow himself to look at his daughter for more than the seconds it took to feed her, change her, and put her down. Because every time he looked at her for longer than that, he saw Naomi's tired eyes in the Polaroid. And he could not hold what he saw and still walk through the front door of his uncle's office. Mrs. Kim watched him. She did not interfere. On the second day, in the late afternoon, she put on her good wool coat and her sensible black hat. She told the day staff she was going into the city for thread for the new curtains in the dining room. She drove the small Mercedes Junpyo kept for her use into a parking lot off the post office on Sawmill River Road in Yonkers. And she went inside, and she stood in line behind a man buying a roll of stamps. And she gave the clerk a small claim ticket she had been carrying in the inside lining of her coat pocket for 9 days. The clerk went to the back. The clerk came back with a thin manila envelope, addressed in a hand Mrs. Kim knew, addressed to a name that was not Mrs. Kim's name. Mrs. Kim signed for the envelope. Mrs. Kim drove back to the Hudson estate. She put the envelope in the inside pocket of her cardigan. She made dinner. She set Junpyo's plate at the kitchen island the way she set it every evening. When he came home that night at 9:43, he looked terrible. He had spent the morning in the office signing the second tranche of December manifests under his uncle's hand. He had spent the afternoon at a tasting at the Mandarin in Midtown, choosing a wine for a banquet he had no intention of attending. He had spent the early evening at the funeral parlor on Madison and 68th, where his uncle had insisted, with a kind of slow choreography, that they begin to discuss the arrangements for the body of the young woman who would not be claimed by anyone else. In case the body in Stonington turned out to be Naomi, The funeral director, a thin man in a dark suit who had buried Junpyo's father, had laid out 3 urn options on a small velvet pad. Junpyo had pointed at the middle one because it was the one in the middle. His uncle had thanked the funeral director. They had walked out of the parlor onto Madison Avenue in a soft late afternoon rain. His uncle had patted him on the shoulder twice on the sidewalk. The hand had stayed too long. He sat down at the island. She set the envelope down on the oak in front of him without a word. He looked at the envelope. He looked at her. She did not look away. Mrs. Kim. Open it, sir. He opened it. Inside the envelope was 1 sheet of paper and a folded yellow note. The sheet of paper was a dental record. 2 panoramic x-rays side by side. Date stamped from a clinic in Bucharest, Romania. Patient name, Adriana Stoica. Date of birth, 1996. Below the x-rays, in printed type, confirmed match. Body discovered Stonington, Connecticut. Below that, the seal of a federal task force he did not recognize. Below that, a handwritten line in pencil. She was 28. We had been trying to find her for 2 years. W.H. The folded yellow note had 10 digits written on it in pencil. Junpyo looked at Mrs. Kim. His mouth moved. No sound came out. Mrs. Kim looked back at him. Sir, she said, I would like to tell you now. He could not answer. She sat down on the stool beside him at the island. She folded her small knotted hands in front of her on the oak. My niece's husband works at the post office on Sawmill River Road, she said. He has held mail for me for 31 years. It is one of the small services I have arranged for myself, quietly, over a long time. 3 weeks after Naomi left this house, a letter came to him. The letter was addressed to me under the name Yoonja Kim. The letter inside was from Naomi. The letter said Naomi was alive. The letter said Naomi was working with a federal agent. The letter said Naomi was pregnant. The letter said Naomi did not want you to know she was alive yet, because she was afraid the information would put her in danger before she had finished her work. The letter asked me to do 2 things. 1, to keep watching over you. 2, to send word back through the same post office on the days she came to collect it, whenever I saw something that would matter to her. She paused. She let him take it in. I have written her 31 letters in 8 months, sir, she said. I have not lied to you in any of them. I have only chosen what to tell her about you. I am sorry. He could not speak. The agent's name is Walter Hayes. He is the man whose pencil is on this dental record. He is the man who is waiting for you to call. He has been waiting for you to call for 8 months. Naomi told him you would, eventually, Mrs. Kim. The body in the motels was not Naomi, sir. The body in the motel was a young Romanian woman who had been in your uncle's containers 18 months ago. Your uncle put her body in that motel 4 days ago in the field jacket, and the pendant Naomi had let go of, on purpose, 6 weeks ago in a bus station in Wilmington. Your uncle wanted the file closed. He wanted you to grieve, sir. He wanted you to grieve and to sign and to walk into that banquet in 8 days and to be the man he could keep using. She looked down at her hands. He almost succeeded. I have watched you for the last 2 days, sir. He almost succeeded. Junpyo set both hands flat on the oak island. He looked at the dental record. He looked at the folded note with the 10 digits. He looked at the small lamp at the sink. He looked at Mrs. Kim's hands. He stood up. He picked up the dental record. He picked up the note. He walked out of the kitchen and up the stairs. He went into his bedroom. He locked the door. He went into the bathroom. He locked the bathroom door. He sat down on the tile floor with his back against the bathtub. He took out his personal phone. He dialed the 10 digits. The phone rang twice. Hayes! The voice was American, low, older, the voice of a man who had been waiting for the phone to ring at this hour for a long time. This is Junpyo Han. There was a beat of silence. Then the voice said, Mr. Han, I'm Walter Hayes, Department of Homeland Security, Maritime Trafficking Task Force. I'm glad you called. We have a great deal to discuss. I will need you to listen to me very carefully for the next 10 minutes. Junpyo closed his eyes. He listened. He listened to Walter Hayes for 38 minutes. When he hung up the phone, he sat on the tile floor of the bathroom for another 5 minutes without moving. Then he got up. He washed his face. He unlocked the bathroom door. He unlocked the bedroom door. He went down the stairs. Mrs. Kim was still at the kitchen island on the stool, her hands folded. Mrs. Kim. Sir, on Saturday morning I will be leaving the house at 5 a.m. I will not tell you where I am going. You will tell anyone who asks that I am with Eugene Choi at the Westchester hangar discussing the honeymoon flight plan. You will not be lying. Eugene will be there. You will keep Sua here. Walter Hayes will have 2 people on this property by 4 a.m. They will not be visible. They will be there. If anything goes wrong with the meeting, I will send you a single text message with 1 word. What word, sir? Move. And if you send that word, you will take Sua out the side door at the boathouse where the dock comes in from the river. There will be a small boat. The boat will take you to a place. I do not need to know the place. The place is yours to choose. I have a list of options Hayes will send you in the morning. You will choose. You will not tell me. Yes, sir. If I send the word move, Mrs. Kim, I will not be coming home from the meeting. She did not look up at him. I understand, sir. He stood in the kitchen, looking at her for a long moment. He put his hand on her shoulder, very lightly, the first time he had ever touched her in this kind of way in his life. She did not flinch. She set her own small hand on top of his, 2 slow seconds. You will come home, sir, she said. He did not answer. He went up the stairs. He unlocked the closet. He sat on the closet floor beside the bassinet for an hour. Sua slept. He did not touch her. He just watched her sleep. On Saturday morning at 5:15, he met Walter Hayes in the back booth of an all-night diner 40 miles up the river. Hayes was in the booth already, in his brown corduroy blazer and his dark olive tie, the small American flag pin on his left lapel, the worn tan trench coat folded on the seat beside him. He had ordered Junpyo a coffee. The coffee was already cooling. There was a manila folder on the table. Mr. Han. Agent Hayes, thank you for coming. Junpyo sat down. He did not touch the coffee. Hayes opened the folder. The folder was 3/4 of an inch thick. Hayes did not open it to a page. He simply set his hand on top of it. Mr. Han, before we talk about what I am asking, I want you to understand what your friend has been doing for 8 months. She found me on her own 14 months ago. She came to my office with a folder of her own. She brought me 3 names from your uncle's manifests that matched 3 open trafficking cases on my desk. I did not believe her at first. She came back the next week with 2 more names. I started believing her. We've been working together, off the books and off the federal payroll, for 14 months. 6 of those months she was pregnant with your daughter. She did not stop working through any of those 6 months. The materials on the drive you've been holding for 9 days, I'm sure I do not need to tell you, are the most comprehensive trafficking case any federal officer has built against a U.S. domiciled maritime operator in 20 years. She did that. She did that because she fell in love with you and refused to leave you alone in your uncle's house once she understood what your uncle's house was. Junpyo could not look up. She is alive, Mr. Han. She has been moved 3 times in the last 6 days. She is safe right now. She is not in this state. I will not tell you where she is until this is over. Do you understand me? Yes. Good. Hayes flipped the folder open. Now, what I am asking from you, I have everything I need to execute the warrant on container HMG 5119302N, which is currently at sea, expected to dock at the Hudson Terminal at 0340 Sunday morning, day after tomorrow. There are 12 women in that container. We will be there. We will execute. What I do not have, what I need from you, is 1 piece of paper. I need a signed statement from you on Han Maritime letterhead, attesting to your knowledge as vice chairman that the cargo numbers attached to that container differ from the declared manifest. I need that statement so I can move on your uncle within the same 45-minute window in which I move on the container. Without your statement, I take 12 women out of a box at dawn. With your statement, I take 12 women out of a box, I take your uncle out of his bed, and I take Connor McAllister out of the terminal gate. All three, same morning. Junpyo did not answer. Hayes watched him. Mr. Han, I am not your friend. I am not asking this for your sake. I am asking it for the 12 women who are at sea right now, and for the dozens of women your uncle will put in containers after this if he is not picked up. I will say to you, however, what your friend asked me to say to you if it came to this. Are you ready to hear it? Yes. Hayes read from a small folded slip of paper he took out of his shirt pocket. She said, You do not owe me the family. You owe yourself the daughter. Sign it. Junpyo did not move. The diner was almost empty. A long-haul trucker sat at the counter in a checked flannel eating eggs. A waitress in a pink uniform refilled the trucker's coffee and went back behind the register and opened a paperback. The booth Junpyo was sitting in had a window that looked out on the parking lot, and beyond the parking lot at the dark line of the river. The bell above the door had rung once when he walked in. It had not rung since. He looked at Walter Hayes. Walter Hayes had blue eyes. The eyes were tired in the corners and steady in the centers, and had been looking at hard rooms for a very long time. The eyes did not push. They were waiting. Agent Hayes. Yes. If I sign this, my uncle goes to prison. He goes to a federal holding facility on Sunday morning. He goes to a federal courthouse on Monday afternoon. He is in court for the next 2 years. Then yes, he goes to prison. He will not come out. My family is finished. Your family runs a trafficking operation, Mr. Han. Your family is finished either way. The only question on this table is whether they finish themselves on Friday, in which case nobody from outside your family takes them down, in which case the women in the next container die in transit because nobody is watching the container, or whether I take them down on Sunday. My name will be in the press. Your name will be on page 17 of the federal complaint as a cooperating witness. The press will find it on page 17 on Wednesday. The press will use your photograph. The press will not be conned. Will my daughter's name? No, her name will not be released. We will protect her name. We will protect yours past page 17 as much as we can. What happens to my house? The estate goes into receivership Monday morning. The trustee is already chosen. You have until the close of business on the second Monday to remove personal effects. After that, the house is sealed for the asset audit. How long? You will be packing for 9 days, Mr. Han. We can move you faster if you need. He thought about Mrs. Kim. He thought about the cedar closet. He thought about the bassinet on the rug in front of the wood stove, in some house he had not yet seen. 9 days is enough, he said. After a long moment, he reached across the table. He took the folder. He took the pen from the side of the folder. He read the document slowly twice. He signed it. He signed his full name. He signed it in the same slow, even hand he had been signing manifests with for 14 months for his uncle. He used the same pen. He slid the folder back across the table to Hayes. Anything else? No, Mr. Han, that is everything good. Mr. Han, yes, you should know. Yujin Choi has been quietly funding my unit's outside operations through a private NGO of hers for the last 24 months. She is the reason I had the bandwidth to start believing Naomi when Naomi came to me. She is the reason we had the surveillance budget on the terminal. Without Yujin Choi, I am not in this booth. I want you to know that. I know it now. You will not see her again before Sunday morning. I know. After Sunday, if you make it through Sunday, you will see her. she will not stay long. She has a foundation to run, and she has been waiting a long time to stop being your fiancé, but she would like to see you when it is done. Tell her yes, I will. Hayes closed the folder, Mr. Han. Go home to your daughter. Stay in the house all day Saturday. Do not answer your uncle if he calls. He may come to the house. If he comes to the house, my people will be at the property line. He will not get inside the gate. How will they not be seen? They have not been seen for 2 years, Mr. Han. They will not be seen on Saturday. Junpyo stood up. Agent Hayes, yes? My daughter's name is Sua Caldwell Han. That is a very good name, Mr. Han. Junpyo nodded once. He left the diner. He drove home. He did not see his uncle on Saturday. His uncle called the house at 1 in the afternoon. Mrs. Kim said Junpyo was at the Westchester hangar with Yoo-jin Choi reviewing the honeymoon flight plan. His uncle said very good in the slow, even voice he used for nothing at all and hung up. Mrs. Kim in the kitchen made rice porridge. Junpyo, in the closet upstairs, slept 4 hours with his daughter against his chest for the first time since the package had come through the gate. Sunday morning at 3:41, the federal raid moved on the Hudson Container Terminal. The team came up the dock with no sirens and no lights. The container, HMG 5119302N, had been offloaded 11 minutes earlier and was sitting at the third bay waiting for a white van that had not yet arrived. Connor McAllister was at the loading bay door in his Navy Port Authority, captain's jacket with a clipboard in his hand and a small earpiece in his right ear. He saw the team at 30 feet. He started to reach for the radio at his shoulder. A man in a dark windbreaker took his arm at the elbow. A second man in a dark windbreaker took his clipboard. Connor McAllister was on the ground, face down on the wet concrete, with his cheek against the painted line, in less than 4 seconds. He did not say a single word. The team opened the container. They opened it slowly. A lead agent stood at the doors with a small flashlight. The flashlight beam lifted into the dark inside the container and held there, low and steady, while a second agent called out one quiet word in 3 different languages, Korean, Romanian, Russian, and waited. A small voice answered from inside the container. The agent stepped to the side. He laid the flashlight on the wet concrete, beam pointing up at the angled ceiling of the container, so the light inside the box would not blind anyone coming out. He held his hand toward the dark. 12 women came out of the container. The youngest was 19. The oldest was 34. 2 of them were sisters. 3 of them spoke no English. 11 of them had not seen daylight in 11 days. They came out one at a time, slow, leaning on each other the way a creature comes out of a small dark space when it has been told to stay still for too many days. The dock under their feet was wet, and they did not trust it. One of them sat down on the concrete on her heels and would not stand back up. A woman agent went to her, knelt beside her, said nothing, set a folded thermal blanket around her shoulders, and waited there with her until she was ready to stand. One of the women, the 7th out, had a small 2-year-old child wrapped in a thin blanket against her shoulder. The child did not cry when she came out of the container. The child looked at the strip of gray dawn over the river for a long, quiet second, and then she put her face against her mother's neck, and then she fell asleep. At the same instant, 24 miles up the river, a second federal team was knocking on the front door of the Hudson estate of Han Sang-hoon. Han Sang-hoon opened the door in a dark navy bathrobe and slippers, his salt and pepper hair combed back, his gold signet ring with the Han clan serpent still on his left pinky. The lead agent showed him the warrant. Han Sang-hoon read it without expression. He said only one thing in his slow, even voice. He said it in Korean. The lead agent did not understand it. The agent behind the lead agent, a younger woman named Officer Cho, did. She did not translate it. She walked Han Sang-hoon out to the car, with his hands cuffed behind his back in his bathrobe, and she sat him in the back of the dark sedan and closed the door. At 8 in the morning, the story was on every news feed in the city. By noon, the story was national. By the 6 o'clock broadcast, the story had a face. The lead agent at a press conference, beside a board with the photographs of the 12 women, beside another board with the photographs of Han Sang-hoon and Connor McAllister in their booking shots. The name Junpyo Han, Vice Chairman, Han Maritime Logistics Group, appeared on page 17 of the federal complaint as a cooperating witness. The name appeared on page 1 of the company press release the following morning, in the line announcing the immediate suspension of all Han family officers from operational control and the appointment of an outside trustee to oversee receivership. By the end of the week, the Han clan name was the most searched term on the East Coast. The first reporters showed up at the gate of the Hudson estate on Sunday at 11 in the morning. By Tuesday, there were 9 vans on the shoulder of the road. By Thursday, there were satellite trucks. Junpyo stopped going out. The trustee appointed by the federal court took over the operational running of the company on Thursday afternoon. The board, what was left of it, asked for Junpyo's resignation in a small letter delivered by hand from a lawyer Junpyo had known for 10 years and never trusted. Junpyo signed the resignation on the kitchen island. He gave the lawyer a glass of water. He did not offer him tea. His mother's brother, who lived in Seoul and had never come to the Hudson estate in his life, called Junpyo on the second Thursday evening of the news cycle and asked if Junpyo had any idea what he had done to the family name. Junpyo told his mother's brother that the family name had not belonged to Junpyo for a very long time, and that the family name was no longer a thing Junpyo was responsible for. His mother's brother hung up. They did not speak again. The press coverage of the case stayed on cable for 2 weeks. The photograph the newspapers printed of Junpyo in every story was a shot taken at a charity gala 3 years earlier. Black tie, half turned toward the camera, a glass of soda water in his hand, an expression on his face that he had not been able to read at the time, and that he now understood had been the expression of a man who already knew the room he was standing in was a crime scene and had not allowed himself to look at it. By the end of the month, the company had been sold off in pieces. By the end of the second month, in the small probate, filing his lawyer slid quietly across his desk, Junpyo had signed away the Hudson estate, the Manhattan penthouse, his share in the Jersey compound, the controlling block of family stock, and the small bronze nameplate on the door of the office that had been waiting for him since the year he turned 21. He kept the small fund his late mother had set up for him when he was a boy. A few $100,000 his uncle had never bothered to know about, because his uncle had not respected his mother enough to read her paperwork. He kept the laptop in the back of the closet. He kept the wicker bassinet. He kept his daughter, Mrs.'s. Kim told him, 3 nights before the estate transferred to the trustee, that she would not be coming with him. "I have been in this house, sir, since I was 30 years old. I am 71. The new owner will need someone who knows the boiler. I will stay 1 more year. Then I will go and live with my niece in Yonkers, and I will sit on her porch in the afternoon, and I will not miss this house. Send me pictures of the baby. Send me 1 a month. I do not need more," he had cried, holding her hands. She had patted the back of his hand twice, the way she had patted his back when he was 3. "Sir." "Yes, Mrs. Kim. You did the right thing. I know. I want you to know that I know. Yes, Mrs. Kim. I know." 3 weeks after the receivership notice, on a Tuesday afternoon in late spring, Junpyo stood at the front window of a rented coastal cottage in a town in Maine called Stonington Point. The cottage Walter Hayes's Quiet Network had found for him, 2 windows wide, a wood stove, a small bedroom at the back, a kitchen the size of a closet, a porch facing east. He had been there 9 days. He had driven up from the Hudson estate in a used gray hatchback he had bought in cash from a dealer in Tarrytown. He had loaded the back seat with a duffel of clothes, a small box of his mother's books, the laptop from the closet, the wicker bassinet, and Sua's car seat. He had left the gate of the estate at 6 in the morning, alone on a wet Sunday in early April. The trustee was scheduled to walk the property at 10. Mrs. Kim had stood on the front step in her wool coat and her sensible black hat and had waved to him exactly once when he reached the bend in the drive. He had not waved back. He had not been able to. He had watched her in the rearview mirror until the bend took her. The drive north had taken 7 hours. He had stopped twice at gas stations, once to feed Sua, once because he could not see the road through his eyes for a minute. He had pulled off into the parking lot of a closed church outside Portland and had sat with his forehead pressed against the steering wheel until the inside of the windshield had cleared. He had reached the cottage at 3 in the afternoon. The key had been under a flower pot of dried geraniums on the porch. The front room had smelled of sea salt and old pine. There had been a small note on the kitchen counter in a hand he did not recognize. Stove works. Heat works. The number on the fridge is the local agent. Welcome, W.H. Sua was crawling now. She had started in the second week on the soft braided rug in front of the wood stove, with both small fists balled into the wool and her small bottom in the air, and she had moved one knee forward and stopped, surprised at herself. Junpyo, in the small kitchen, had set down the dish he was holding so carefully that he did not make a sound, and he had crossed the room and lain on the floor on his side at her eye level. She had looked at him. She had moved the other knee. She had reached the edge of the rug. He had laughed out loud. The first time he had laughed out loud in 3 months. And Sua, startled, had looked up at his face and had laughed back. He had not stopped laughing for an hour. The cottage had been picked because it was on a road that ended at a beach, because it had a single approach, because Hayes's office could keep eyes on it from a fishing boat. Junpyo had been told he would not be told when she was coming. He had been told only that she would come. Their afternoon was overcast. The wind off the bay smelled of salt and rope. He had been keeping himself busy by repainting the small porch railing in a soft white. He had primed it that morning. He was waiting for the primer to dry. He had Sua in a small fabric carrier strapped to his chest. She was asleep against his collarbone. He was looking at the porch railing when he heard the gate at the end of the gravel path click open. He looked up. Naomi was standing at the gate. She was thinner than the Polaroid. She was wearing the same worn olive jacket. A different one, he understood, but the same kind. She was wearing a different pendant on a leather cord at her throat. Her hair was longer. It lay in a single thick braid over her right shoulder. She had a small leather duffel bag at her feet on the gravel. She did not move. He did not move. They stood looking at each other across 30 feet of gravel and the soft sound of the bay. Sua, asleep against his chest, made a small noise. Naomi's mouth opened. She closed it again. He walked to the gate. He did not run. He did not stumble. He walked. He stopped on his side of the gate. She stood on her side. The rain that had been threatening all afternoon had finally started to come down. Small light drops in the gravel, in the curls at her temple, on the shoulders of her jacket. He did not say anything. She did not say anything. He unhooked the front of the fabric carrier. He lifted Sua out, slowly, against his shoulder. She was warm. She was breathing. She was beginning to stir. He held her out across the gate. Naomi looked down at her daughter. Her mouth opened. Her hands came up. She took her. She held her against her own chest. Sua, half awake now, blinked once and then closed her eyes again and pressed her small face against the soft cream wool turtleneck Naomi was wearing under the olive jacket. Naomi's hand came up and cradled the back of the small head, where it knew exactly how to land. Naomi closed her eyes. A single tear came down the side of her nose. She did not make a sound. Junpyo opened the gate. He held it open. He did not say come in. She did not need him to. She walked through the gate, with her daughter against her chest, and she walked up the gravel path past him. And she walked up the 2 wood steps onto the porch, and she opened the door of the cottage. And she went inside. He stood at the gate. He looked at the open door. He looked at the gravel where her boots had pressed 2 clean prints. He looked at the duffel bag still sitting on the other side of the gate. He picked up the duffel bag. He carried it up the gravel path. He climbed the 2 wood steps. He went inside the cottage. He closed the door behind him. Inside the cottage, Naomi was standing in the small front room, with Suza held against her shoulder. She had not put down her duffel yet. She had not taken off her jacket. The rain had collected at the shoulders of the olive canvas and was beginning to slide in thin lines down the seams. Her braid was wet at the end. Her boots were tracking water onto the bare pine floor. She had not noticed any of it. She was looking at the small braided rug in front of the wood stove. The rug Su-ah had crawled across 2 weeks ago for the first time. The rug Junpyo had bought the first day in the cottage from an old woman at a Saturday market in town. She was looking at the rug because she was not ready yet to look at him. He set her duffel down on the pine floor inside the door. He took off his own jacket. He hung it on the wooden peg by the door. He went into the kitchen the size of a closet, and he put a kettle on the small 2-burner stove. And he lit the burner with a long wooden match the way one had to in this cottage, because the lighter on the stove had never worked. Naomi did not move. After a moment, she crossed the small front room and sat down on the edge of the soft armchair beside the wood stove. She did not let go of Su-ah. Su-ah was awake now, lifting her small head off Naomi's shoulder, looking around the room, blinking slowly the way a baby blinks when the room is unfamiliar but warm. Junpyo brought 2 mugs of barley tea in from the kitchen. He set one of them on the small wooden side table beside Naomi's chair. He sat down on the floor at her feet, his back against the front of the other armchair. He held his own mug in his 2 hands. He did not look at her. He did not need to. After a long moment, she said very quietly, "Mrs. Kim told me you knew how to make the bottle. She taught me. She taught everybody who has ever lived in your house how to do something they did not know how to do." Yes. A small silence. "I will be honest with you, Junpyo. I am very tired. I know. I am not ready to talk about any of it tonight. I know. I want to sit in this chair for a while. I want to drink the tea. I want to look at her face. After that, I want to take her into the back room and sleep with her for 9 hours. After that, I want to wake up and decide what I am ready to say. Yes, is that all right with you?" Yes. She looked at him then for the first time. He looked back at her. He had not seen her eyes in 8 months. The eyes had become the eyes he had seen in the Polaroid. Tired in a way he had not known a person's eyes could be tired. But they were her eyes. They were her eyes looking at him in his small kitchen, in a town in Maine, in the rain, in a quiet that did not belong to either of his families. She set her hand on top of his hand on the floor. She did not say anything else. The kettle had stopped whistling on the stove. The rain had not stopped on the porch. Su-ah had set her cheek back against Naomi's collarbone and had closed her eyes again. Outside the small east window, the light had begun to fade off the bay in long, flat gray bands. The way light fades in this part of the country when a spring rain is about to give over to the dark. Junpyo set down his mug. He did not stand up. He sat at her feet with her hand on top of his, and he listened to the rain on the small roof, and he watched the slow rise and fall of his daughter's small back against the woman he had been looking for 273 nights. The number had stopped being a number. The number had become a door. The door had been opened by a wicker bassinet on a gravel drive in the middle of the night, and a note from a woman who had loved him enough to leave him, and a small black USB drive containing the names of women who would not get to sit in a rented cottage with a kettle and a wood stove and the rain. He thought about those names. He thought about them every day. He thought he would think about them every day for the rest of his life. He thought he should. Some men inherit empires. Some men choose what they hold instead. If this story moved you, stop for a moment and reflect. What would you choose to hold? If everything you were born to inherit asked you to put down the one truth you had left, tell us your experiences and feelings in the comments. We read them all. And if you believe in stories about fatherhood, hidden truth, and choosing love over blood, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a part of our community and help the channel.